Imagine a land steeped in ancient lore, but look closer, and you'll find shadows hiding stories far darker than any legend. We're not talking about mythical banshees tonight. We're digging into the real, chilling history of Ireland, where the past whispers secrets some would rather forget. From haunting famines to brutal rebellions, Ireland's journey through time is paved with events that are as tragic as they are profound. Tonight, we're peeling back the layers to uncover the darker side of the Emerald Isle. Stay with me as we explore the stories that textbooks often leave out, but which have shaped the very soul of this nation. Let's start with a chapter that echoes through generations, the Great Hunger. You might have heard it called the Potato Famine, but that name doesn't even begin to capture the horror. From 1845 to 1852, a blight destroyed the potato crop, the primary food source for a third of the population. But this wasn't just a natural disaster. While millions of Irish people were starving, the country was still exporting vast quantities of other foods like grain, meat, and dairy, all under the watchful eye of its British rulers. Landlords, many of whom were English aristocrats, evicted starving families from their homes, leaving them to perish by the roadside. The result was catastrophic. Over 1 million people died from starvation and disease, and another 1 million were forced to flee the country, creating a massive diaspora that spread Irish culture across the globe, but was born from unimaginable suffering. This wasn't just a famine. Many historians argue it was a preventable tragedy, fueled by political indifference and cruel economic policies. The memory of the coffin ships, packed with desperate immigrants, still haunts the Irish consciousness today. Now, let's turn to a more hidden, but equally sinister, part of Irish history, the Magdalene Laundries. For over 150 years, from the late 18th century right up until 1996, these institutions were run by Catholic religious orders. On the surface, they were presented as places of refuge for fallen women, a term that could mean anything from unmarried mothers to young girls, considered to flirtatious or simply victims of abuse. But inside, they were little more than prisons. Women and girls were forced into unpaid, backbreaking labor, washing laundry for businesses and government institutions. They were stripped of their names, their identities, and their freedom. Communication with the outside world was forbidden. Their letters were censored, and escape was nearly impossible. These women endured psychological and physical abuse, living in a constant state of fear and shame. It's estimated that over 30,000 women were confined in these laundries over the years. The last one closed its doors less than 30 years ago, a shocking reminder of how recently these abuses were occurring. For decades, their stories were silenced, buried beneath a culture of secrecy and shame, until brave survivors began to speak out, forcing a painful national reckoning. Our next story takes us to the early 20th century, to the heart of Ireland's fight for independence. The Easter Rising of 1916 is often romanticized as a heroic stand against the British Empire, and in many ways, it was. But the aftermath was brutal. The British response was swift and merciless. The leaders of the Rising, including poets and teachers who became revolutionaries, were rounded up and executed by firing squad. Their deaths, meant to crush the rebellion, instead turned them into martyrs and galvanized public support for independence. This led directly to the Irish War of Independence, a guerrilla conflict marked by vicious ambushes, reprisals, and atrocities on both sides. The British deployed the notorious Black and Tans, a paramilitary force known for its brutality against civilians. They burned towns, carried out summary executions, and created a climate of terror. But the violence didn't end there. After the Anglo-Irish Treaty was signed, creating the Irish Free State but partitioning the island, a bitter civil war erupted between former comrades. The pro-treaty forces, now the government, fought against the anti-treaty IRA. This conflict was particularly heartbreaking, pitting brother against brother. It featured brutal tactics, including the execution of prisoners, creating deep and lasting wounds in Irish society that would fester for generations. Finally, we must talk about the Troubles, a period of violent sectarian conflict that tore Northern Ireland apart for 3 decades. From the late 1960s to 1998, it was a complex and tragic war fought on the streets of towns and cities. On one side were Unionists, largely Protestant, who wanted Northern Ireland to remain part of the United Kingdom. On the other were nationalists, mostly Catholic, who sought a united Ireland. Paramilitary groups like the IRA, the UVF, and the UDA waged campaigns of bombing and assassination. The British Army was deployed, and what followed was a cycle of violence that seemed unbreakable. Days like Bloody Sunday in 1972, when British soldiers shot 26 unarmed civil rights protesters, killing 14, became infamous symbols of the conflict's brutality. Car bombs devastated city centers, and sectarian murders became terrifyingly common. Over 3,500 people were killed, and tens of thousands were injured. This wasn't a distant war. It was fought in neighborhoods, pubs, and shopping streets. It created a generation raised amidst soldiers, checkpoints, and the constant threat of violence, leaving deep psychological scars on the entire population that are still healing today. The dark history of Ireland is not just a collection of tragic events. It's a testament to the resilience of a people who have endured unimaginable hardship. From the Great Hunger to the Magdalene Laundries and the violence of the Troubles, these stories are a crucial part of the Irish identity. They remind us that history is often complex, painful, and far from the simple narratives we're sometimes told. These are not just Irish stories. They are human stories of suffering, injustice, and the enduring fight for dignity and freedom. What part of Ireland's hidden history do you find most shocking or moving? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the shadows of the past. If you found this exploration of Ireland's darker history compelling, please give this video a like and hit that subscribe button. We have so many more untold stories from around the world to share with you. Follow our channel for more deep dives into the history that shaped us all. Until next time, stay curious.